Fellow explorers, some of my favorite videos to make are the ones that you suggest, and this video is one of those. This video topic was suggested by Tatiana from Sweden, and on Instagram she sent me this message that said, "Hi Chris, I'm so happy to be continually watching your videos and..." Just turning my levels down here a little bit because I'm a little loud. "I'm so happy to be watching your videos. I especially like your live streams, but how do you motivate yourself with going outside and being as active as you do when you have bad days and you're feeling down? And also, how do you handle all the impressions you get from being outside? Is this something you can talk about on your live stream?" And then Tatiana says, "I've really helped addict her to iced tea." All right, well, thank you for that request, Tatiana. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I've also received a number of requests about people who say, "Chris, and how do you stay motivated and productive while you have a full-time job and a young family?" So we're going to cover being productive as well. All right, so first I want to start with motivated. How does Chris stay motivated? And to answer this question, we have to take the Wayback Machine, and go back into the things that perhaps formed Chris and how Chris thinks. And so the best way to take the Wayback Machine, I think, is probably to look at pictures from the past as we talk about it. But I want to start with saying that there have been some people in the chat who have put like some fairly easy answers, and it would be easy to say something like, "I've never been a homebody. I've always been an explorer. I've always wanted to go outside. I've just always been motivated to do it." But that wouldn't be entirely true. So let's go into what the true story is. And the true story is that is what we want to do here. So growing up, I was a total computer nerd. This is me here growing up in front of some computers. And maybe I still am. Maybe I still am a computer nerd. But I was a computer nerd who really enjoyed sitting at home all day long. That would just be my favorite activity, being online on the computer, just kind of by myself. I'm one of those people who doesn't need a lot of other people. In that case, I didn't even need sunlight, as you could tell by how my face looked. I was working on my computer monitor tan. And you know, about the only thing I would go outside for, other than school, was maybe In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is still my favorite place to eat today. My favorite place to eat then. There's my first yellow car, by the way, at In-N-Out Burger. And when I started college, one of my favorite things to do was to play Magic the Gathering, which another indoor activity. If you've never seen this game, heard of it, maybe you have a trading card game with dragons and bears and things like that, and magic. But that was another activity that just kept me inside places. And I got to the point where, being a computer science major, being in school, I had this interesting sleep schedule where I was just like, my classes didn't start till 2, so I would stay up late at night on internet chat playing MUDs, multi-user dungeons. If you've heard of World of Warcraft, which has like graphics and stuff, MUDs are what came before that. They look like what you see on that screen right there. Text-based things that the way you play the game is the game tells you, like, you're standing in a dark room. There's exits to the left and the right. There's a light flickering to the right. Which way do you want to go? And you type in "go right." And then it says, "Okay, you're now in the next room. This has a dungeon gate," etc., etc., etc. But there are multiple players, so you play with a lot of people. And I spent 4,000 hours playing one of these MUDs. How do I know 4,000 hours? Because this MUD actually kept track of the time of all the time that you spent playing this game. And that was a really long time. And I realized that this kind of was a really unhealthy lifestyle. I was just getting sick often, nothing serious, but colds. I just didn't feel great. I didn't have a lot of energy. And so to me, I think that was maybe a warning sign that I needed to do something different. And the second warning sign was I started going to sleep so late at night that children's cartoons were on by the time I went to sleep. Now, in the US, if you know this, children's cartoons come on at about 6 in the morning. So that would tell you about the time I was going to sleep when most people were getting up. I see in the chat, Matt Wilson says, "I used to play Batmud." Very cool, Matt. And then Kathy says, "This is going to be interesting hearing your life story." Yes, this does sound a little bit like my life story. Take the Wayback Machine to understand why I'm motivated to go outside and do things now. And it all starts from this and, of course, Scooby-Doo. So my quest to say, hey, I need to do something different. I need to get healthier. All this time sitting at home in front of the computer, playing card games is not good for me, and it started with bike riding. That's the first thing I took up. I bought a bicycle, and I started riding it around San Diego, where I grew up. And I quickly ran out of places to ride my bike, and so I started putting my bike in that yellow Honda Accord that you saw parked in front of In-N-Out Burger. And I would take my bike in my yellow Honda Accord, and I would drive up the California coast to different beaches to explore them. I would say I probably explored every inch of beach from the Mexican border up to Malibu. If it wasn't on foot, then it was on bike, so I've seen it all. But it was the bike that really helped me do that and really made me want to explore new places. Then I picked up Dance Dance Revolution. I was at an arcade once, and I saw somebody playing this silly dancing game, and I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, this person's amazing at it. And the difficulty level on these songs when you play Dance Dance Revolution range from 1 foot to 10 feet. And that's the difficulty level. And I was completely exhausted playing the 1 foot song for 90 seconds. And that's another one to be like, I have to do better. I can play the 10-foot songs now, but that's after, a decade or two of practice at Dance Dance Revolution. Now, at some point I took up surfing, and I took up surfing because when I was going to San Diego State University and I talked to a lot of students there, I would ask them, why did you come to San Diego State University? You are from Sweden, you're from the UK, why did you come to San Diego State University? And universally, they all almost gave me the same answer, which was, Chris, it's simple. We came here to surf. That's how we came here. And I'm like, how am I in my 20s and growing up in San Diego, one of the surf capitals of the world, and I've never surfed? So I took up surfing. And if we just look at me in here, I'm still a little bit on what I would call the larger side in these pictures. And so later, a couple years later, after spending a ton of time biking, spending a ton of time playing Dance Dance Revolution, spending a ton of time out surfing, I basically came to the conclusion that I'd rather be spending my time outside doing those things than just sitting inside working on my moon tan or my monitor tan. And at that point is when I started seeing people, and people say, Chris, you look different. You just look a lot healthier. You just look a lot better. I had more energy. I was happier. And that's what really got me outside to just say, every day, I'm going to go someplace. Every day, I'm going to wake up and go someplace and exercise. And it's kind of carried forward as something that, particularly on the weekends. I mean, on the weekdays, I have a full-time job, so it's a little harder to do. But on the weekends, to say I want to get up and I want to go someplace, because if I'm just sitting at home, I feel like I'm kind of wasting not just my time away, but I'm wasting myself away. Now, I want to give a note, which is I don't really watch much in the way of television and movies. I'm really bad when it comes to conversations about, Chris, have you seen the latest show on Netflix or this latest series on HBO? I would watch most of my movies and televisions on airplanes. And so now that I haven't flown anywhere, I'm really behind on a lot of my TV watching. I really don't watch much in the way of sports either. Growing up in San Diego, it's really kind of a big outdoor activity town. Not a lot of sports fans that love San Diego teams. Everybody brings their other team to San Diego. And so when we talk about productivity later, those are just things that aren't keepers of my time, because they aren't things that I really spend my time on. So now, in the background of all of this, right, going to school for computer science, learning to love the outdoors through biking, surfing, and Dance Dance Revolution, which I guess is indoors, but it's exercise. My dad was a wedding videographer, and so I would often go out and shoot wedding videos with my dad. This is a never before seen picture here on YouTube of my dad's kind of custom video rig. If you're shooting a wedding and you're holding a camera for a long time, your arms can get really sore. And so this kind of just helped hold up the camera, and then here I could just move it around a little bit. Got the headphones on so I could hear what's going on. And then my dad, I don't know if he's watching today, but he often watches the live streams. He goes by the handle Electric Rick, and there's Electric Rick wearing his rig looking animated as he usually does. So Then along comes OC Girl into my life, and we plan our first trip to Japan in the mid-2000s, and that is definitely when the travel bug caught me. Traveling to Japan was amazing experiences. I was scared at first. I didn't know what to think. I brought power bars with me and pillows. I was prepared for the worst food and the worst experience, but I really enjoyed it, and so I didn't need any of those things. And so, after our first trip together, and this goes to answer the question of how do we always travel or go places? After any trip, we just start planning the next trip. So as soon as we come back from trip A, we're on to planning trip B. We generally always have 1 or 2 trips on the books. It's kind of weird for us to have no trips on the books, which obviously we had for a while during the pandemic. So we started exploring nearby areas because it was hard to go places. But now I'm happy to report we have a couple of trips back on the books again, as things should be. And so that's one where if you watched my video last week talking about travel myths, there's never a good time to travel. How do you plan it? We usually plan it a couple months out, and a couple months out, it's always a pretty good time. And then we just kind of go ahead and proceed as planned. Now, if you've been following my life closely, which many of you that are here on this live streams probably do, along comes the traveling princess. That's right, she is just about 22 months old now, and that certainly changed things for us quite a bit, but certainly for the better. And the traveling princess, she's not one of those kids that really seems to like to sit at home. She doesn't have the sit inside gene, and if she's in the house for too long, we find she just kind of melts down and needs to go outside. She starts walking us to the door. She starts getting socks. She starts pointing to her shoes because she just really wants to go outside, whether it's biking, whether it's hiking, just being outside of some places she likes to go. And so I would say we take her, but I feel like she often ends up taking us places. She ends up taking us outside the house. We have to pick the destination. And so we've picked a lot of outside destinations. We could certainly go to the same place every week, every day, every weekend, but we like to explore. We don't want to waste that time to, live in Southern California and not have seen the Santa Monica Pier in 10 years, or not recently been to downtown Los Angeles, or not seen Hollywood Boulevard. There's too much here to not see, that we always want to make sure on our weekends we have at least kind of one weekend day that we're out doing something and exploring something new. Then usually the other weekend day is set aside for some rest and relaxation, housework, chores, that sort of stuff. And this goes to the pandemic and to Tatiana's question about, Chris, how did you do this during the pandemic? And I would say, sure, certainly things were harder in the pandemic when we were in our California lockdowns and restaurants weren't open and it was only takeout. It's extra hard with a toddler because where do you change them? Where do you eat? There aren't high chairs, but we would get food to go. We would eat it in parks. We would do everything creative we could to still be outside and still exist and still keep seeing things. I really look at going new places to be both a physical and a mental well-being thing. There's the phrase, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I feel like all inside time and no outside time makes Chrissy a dull boy, and it turns out an unhealthy boy as well, because exploring all these places, generally you want to do it on foot or you want to do it on bike, really helps with exercise as well. So people say, Chris, how can you, boy, you have a lot of energy, you can walk 5 or 10 miles. Well, to best way to explore Tokyo or Venice Beach or Santa Monica is on 2 feet, and so I've just got a lot of practice of walking 2 feet. 2 feet? Walking on 2 feet. All right. That is the first section of this live stream about how I stay motivated to go outside and do things. I've got 2 more sections, which is how do I handle impressions when people see me out in public? And then the third one is how do I stay productive making a couple videos a week while I have a job and a young family. But before I get to those, I want to hit some comments from the chat. A lot of reactions about the traveling princess here. Kate Clark says she's cute. She has a lot of curiosity. She's adorable. She is almost 2 years old. That is very true. And Kathy says, once you start traveling, you catch the bug and you can't stop. I think that's true for all people, though I think there's other people who travel and say, I hate this and I don't ever want to do it. I have met some of those people. They probably don't hang out on this channel, but they do exist. Scott says, I don't watch too much TV or movies either. I tend to just have the Weather Channel or ESPN in the background while I do other things. That's a cool way to do it. The one thing I do watch in the mornings, I watch the morning news. I watch the local KTLA news, which is kind of like the independent news station in Los Angeles, Orange County. I don't have to get all the crappy politics that are depressing there. Garrett says, I ride my bike to buy food or go to Walmart. That's a great way to get some exercise as well. And then some comments about DDR. Brandon says, I would not challenge you to DDR. Well, Brandon, if you are up for it, I'm always happy to be challenged to DDR, because even though I don't get to play it as much anymore, I still think I'm pretty good, and it's still one of my favorite activities. Stanford Bridge says, you're in danger of inspiring me a bit here. I hope so. If you haven't thought about going out or traveling recently, I encourage you to do that. Get out, be inspired. Chicken Marsala asks, what was your first job out of college? So my college education's in computer science, and so my career the whole time has been in developing software, so software background. Before coming out of college, I worked some internships where I did like tech support for an internet service provider. I also worked at a company building computers, and those were all educational things, I would say. Not great jobs that I wanted to do forever. Hopefully you didn't get one of my computers that I built, because I don't know that I built them very well, but I did build computers, and I still build all the ones that I use today to do my editing and live streaming on. All right, it's time for me to take a drink before I go on to how I handle impressions and how I'm productive. Today I am drinking, this is probably better if I take this label off, huh? Does this label easily come off so that you can see it? I don't know why they put this label, okay, that's hard to read. But anyway, I am drinking a oolong tea from Tiger Sugar. Tiger Sugar is a Taiwanese boba chain that just opened a location in Orange County. They've had a couple in LA, they've had some others in New York. They've got like long lines wherever they open. Pretty good tea. The tea leaves are from Taiwan. The boba is from Taiwan. Pretty good. Anybody else had Tiger Sugar? What do you think? They're called Tiger Sugar because they're famous for these drinks that they have like brown sugar and they look like tiger stripes on them. I had that drink already. It's my second drink. I got True, one that I drank earlier today, and one that I could drink on the live stream. By the way, James says the Traveling Princess is a good motivator to help keep you productive. That too, though, she's also a good motivator to have us not be productive, because she really appreciates our attention, and not our attention on these things, or not our attention on, like camera, she's cool if it's the camera and the selfie thing and she can see herself and the camera shooting her. But Chris sitting here editing is something that she doesn't enjoy, because she'd rather have Papa out playing ball with her or taking her to the slide. We'll talk through that in just a little bit. And related to Tiger Sugar, Matthew says we have it here in Vancouver. What do you think, Matthew? Do you like Tiger Sugar? All right. So now that we've covered my motivations, or what makes Chris tick, let's talk about how I handle impressions when we're out in public, because that was something Tatiana asked in that intro comment. So I love it when fans out in the world stop by and say hi. It happens more and more frequently, it seems like, as time goes on, which I think is fantastic. It can sometimes be weird, and it's weird when people they yell, hey Chris, as if they've known me for 10 years, and you know what, they probably have, and I realize that it's just weird for me, because I introduce myself and they say okay Chris, I'll be like, oh, what's your name? And they'd be like, hi, my name's Bob, and I'm like, oh, I'm Chris, and I'm like, I knew that, and I'm like, of course you did, but I didn't know your name. It's just one of these super odd kind of social things, but I think it's fantastic when people say, Chris, can I take a picture of you? I love your videos. I love to hear what people's gateway video was to Yellow Productions, what was the first video that they watched, or what kind of trip were they planning when they watched Yellow Productions. I think some of the interesting things where people have seen me out in public, the first real person that said hey Chris, was Joey from the Philippines, when OC Girl and I were in Nara, Japan, wearing our kimonos, shooting our video about feeding the deer in Japan, and Joey said, Chris, It's me, Joey. It's Joey from the Philippines. I love your videos. As if I've known Joey for 20 years, and how could I not possibly recognize him? Joey, if you're out there, thank you for being the first person to say hi to me out in public someplace. But it was so kind of, and he loved the videos I made on Singapore, right? It's like this kind of like worldwide inception mind flip about here's Joey from the Philippines who watched my videos on Singapore, and we're meeting in the town of 1,000 deer in Japan, right? Now, some of the other interesting ones is a story from the Grand Hyatt in Kauai, one of the videos reviews that I've done. I went to Kauai with my mom, and we were walking around the lobby, and I was shooting some video in the lobby. I was not wearing my yellow shirt at the time, though I did have a camera, and I was shooting the lobby scenes. And there was a staff member kind of like lurking behind. And I'm always kind of leery when I'm shooting in public places or private places like a hotel, and there's somebody following me because I assume they're going to tell me, we don't want you to shoot here. But it couldn't be further from the truth. This person was following me because he wanted to hear me speak, and then when he heard me speak, he's like, it's you from Yellow Productions. Hey, do you want to see this part of the lobby? Do you want me to move this thing? Do you want me to help you with that? He's like, I love your videos. And apologies, I don't remember your name, but if you're watching this from the lobby of the Grand Hyatt a few years back, thanks for saying hey as well, and just being truly amazing. Now, I can understand when people recognize me when I'm wearing yellow and I've got my camera out and I'm just being like super obvious in public. The ones that really amaze me are the ones when I'm like out at the supermarket, I'm not saying anything, I'm not wearing yellow, I'm just walking, I'm just minding my own business, looking at what oatmeal or cereal that I want, and then people walk by and go like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I love your videos, which I think is neat too. The last comment that I'll make about people seeing me, and this is sort of a funny one, a remark that I've gotten recently as I've been, wearing this headset as I do my live streams, not live streams, but just like walking tours out and about. I got my gimbal. I look really obvious, and people are like, "What are you a YouTuber or something?" in kind of a mocking way. To which point I say, "Well, actually, I am." And they're like, "Well, really? What's your channel?" I said, "Well, it's Yellow Productions," and then they look it up, and it's a little bit of humble pie for them or something to be like, he really is a YouTuber. There was this has happened a couple times. It happened most recently on a hiking trail that OC Girl, the Traveling Princess, and I were on, and it was a family, older parents. They might have even been grandparents, and then son, and it was the grandparents that were sort of mocking, and the son actually didn't even have to look me up because the son's like, I've seen his videos. He is a YouTuber. So I just thought that was neat. All right, so those are how I handle impressions. We have covered what motivates me, how I handle impressions. We're going to cover how I stay productive, making 2 YouTube videos a week with a full-time job and a young family. But first, let me head to some of your comments. HG Man says, I discovered your channel when I was looking for tips on a trip to Vegas. The cheap eats were particularly helpful. Very cool for that, HG Man. Thank you for that feedback on Vegas and cheap eats tips. Amy says, Vegas were my gateway videos. I still love to go back and watch them again. Thank you, Amy. That's neat. Gilberto says, you motivated me to go to California. Hopefully California does not let you down, Gilberto. Kay says, your California Poppy video was my first time seeing you. Then your Korea trip was so much fun. We were planning a trip there. Neat. Kay, did you make it to Korea, or did things shut down before you got there? I'm curious. And that's neat that you love the poppies and also loved Korea. I loved my Korea series. I feel like not as many people watched it as I would like because Korea, I think, isn't a huge tourist draw. Endale says, I'm flying to LA for the first time in November. I booked a flight from Detroit to Salt Lake City to Burbank so I can avoid dealing with the LAX, which I hear is the worst. I think so. I mean, it depends where you're going, but if you're staying in North LA and this and that, that's probably a good plan. Owen Point Traveler says, oh, and you have a second channel too. I do have 2 channels. I have this channel, Yellow Productions, and my second channel, The Office Survival Guide, where I give you tips not just to survive the office week, but give you the skills to crush it. Gosh, if you haven't been over there, one of my recent videos is about some things you need to remove from your resume immediately if you're looking for a job. And if you want to know what those are, go check out that video. I've had a ton of people over my Office Survival Guide say, Chris, I've loved your tips. They've helped me win interviews, land jobs, so that's been great. It doesn't have quite the same viewership here as Yellow Productions because I think more people want to talk about travel than they do about doing a great job at work. But if you want to know how to level up your skills at work, go check out over there. Chicken Marsala says you were one of the pioneers of Vegas videos on YouTube. Thank you, Chicken Marsala. I appreciate that. Stanford Bridge says, I first got hooked on your channel when I was jonesing to travel during the pandemic, and your videos gave me the vicarious feeling of traveling already. Well, that is great to hear, Stanford Bridge. Marco says, I saved his wife and him so much money in Vegas. Thank you, Marcos. Great sunglasses you had in your picture there. Eric says, I've been watching Yellow since 2015 and 2016. A long time. Thanks for hanging with me for that long. Kathy says, I'm using your Office Survival mug today. That's very cool. And Kay says, we did not make it to Korea, but maybe next year. Well, I hope you do. If you have any questions about your itinerary, let me know. The Traveling Irishman says, hey there, Chris, been following you for years. Great to hear you stay motivated. I get in a funk and unmotivated when the percentage of viewing time on my videos is like 25%. Well, I'll tell you what, Traveling Irishman, don't feel bad, because particularly on these live streams that are an hour long, my percentage viewed on some of these is probably 25% or maybe even less, because it's an hour long, and so people just like tune in for the first 10 or 15 minutes and they don't make it all the way through. But for every one of you that makes it all the way through, I really appreciate it, because average watch time is a big deal. And Irishman, I think just the more you do it and the more videos you make, you'll learn how to make them better so that people stay on longer, figure out how to delete the boring parts that nobody's interested in, and keep people watching. Kathy is another one who said, hey, I saw you when we were planning Hawaii, but never made it there. Uniplex says, we also watched your video about Maui. Very cool, Uniplex. Eric says, my love for travel mostly comes from growing up poor, so I never got to travel, and now when I travel, I've always dreamed of it. Makes things even more special. I couldn't agree with you more, Eric. And if we tie into my video from last week about travel myths where people say it's expensive, it doesn't have to be, right? There's a lot of ways that you can use miles and points and things like that to go around, that you don't have to be, the lifestyles of the rich and famous to travel. And I just want to point, Marielle said this, that one of the first videos I watched was your videos on Kanazawa, which is really cool. One of my favorite parts of Japan, another series that I wish has gotten more views. Kathy says, I would definitely say hi to you in public. All right, good, Kathy. If you see me, say hi for me in public. Kathy, I would be, the amount of time you spend here on the live streams, and I love that you do, I would be insulted if you didn't. And it's funny, Kathy, I got a note from somebody recently, Kathy, you should know this, that said they love your participation on the live streams. They're like, Kathy seems to know everything about everybody, and she's just so funny. So Kathy, keep being you and being your funny self, and know that there's more than just me that appreciate your comments, right? There's this community here. The Uniplex says, I always watch your videos all the way through. I appreciate it, Uniplex. That's kind of you. And, sometimes people say, like, hey, Chris, how can I help you out on things? If the live stream's boring and you don't want to watch it and you're going to go to dinner, you could totally just, leave it running. That'd be okay, right? I wouldn't mind. YouTube wouldn't mind either. All right, thanks. So let's now talk about how I stay productive with a full-time job, a young family, and 2 YouTube channels. So this section is in a few different sections, and I think some of my keys to staying productive, one is time management. I'm going to cover each one of these in a little more detail. I'm just sort of giving you the table of contents of this section of the video. 1 is time management. 2 is systemization. 3 is ready-to-go gear. And when I say gear, I kind of break that up into 2 categories. Gear being ready for editing and shooting, and then also gear just to be able to travel easily at a moment's notice. So peeling that back, we're going to do time management first, but I want to kind of, like in the Wayback Machine too, in 2008 when I started this channel, I was publishing perhaps one video per month, because it would just take me that long to edit them. I was learning how to shoot travel videos. I was learning how to edit, playing around in the editor, playing around with effects, trying to figure out what was interesting. Should this be an hour video? Should it be a 5-minute video? Should it be a 10-minute video? What should it be about? I would go shoot content, just traveling. Like we would travel and I would shoot videos as we traveled, and then trying to make anything interesting out of random shots is challenging. And so I'm gonna put that on hold for a moment and then say, going from one video a month, sometime 4 or 5 years into the channel, we'll call it 2012, 2013, I decided, hey, I'm gonna make a go of this, and I'm gonna do a video a week. That's right, I'm gonna do a video a week. And then maybe 4 years ago, I said, I'm gonna make two. I'm gonna do a video a week and one live stream a week. And now then maybe you get a bonus video too. So maybe you get 3, but I kind of, my promise is 2. And the promise is 2 because, and why the live streams help is, as a travel channel, ostensibly you have to travel to make content, but one can only travel so much. And so then these live streams help me bring you more content, not having to travel, and also a different format and being able to talk about different things. And I also really love interacting with everybody here, that if I'm like walking out on a live stream, I can't read the comments in the same way and just process things the same way. Okay, so in order to go from one video a month to maybe 3 a week, in particular being able to pump out those kind of edited or on location ones, at least 1 per week, I really had to, develop systems, which I'll get into, but also, like time management today to go to 3. So on weekdays, I probably have 2 hours or less to dedicate to this channel because I got a full-time job that takes 8 or 9 hours, and the traveling princess, she comes home from preschool and then she needs to be parented, and so that takes some time. And so I'll have like maybe an hour before the traveling princess comes home from preschool, which is this window right now, and then maybe I'll have an hour at night once she goes to bed. I could eat into that and say, well, I could stay up longer and edit videos longer, and I could stay up till 6 in the morning when Scooby-Doo is on. But no sleep and all work makes Chrissy a brain-dead boy. So I think sleep's really important. But in those kind of 2 hours on weekdays, that's when I do all my research, my outline writing, my video editing, my thumbnail making, my testing for live streams, right? Anytime I bring someone on for a live stream, I need to test with them to make sure it's actually going to work and the shot looks good and we can hear the audio. Sometimes I do 2 tests with folks, with Dale and Paula. I think maybe we did 3 tests before we got to the live stream because it was their first live stream and they were working on all the kinks of their live stream gear. I'm not saying this to say, woe is me, but just to give an example of all the things that kind of fit in there. And so I got to like time box those things to be like, hey, we're going to test for 15 minutes because I got some thumbnails to make and I got some videos to edit and I can't be a 3-hour test, and then on weekends, I like to take every other weekend, I like to take one day to be kind of a shooting day out and about here in Southern California right now. And when I do that, then I try to shoot 2 videos on that shooting day because 2 videos a week, just by the time I'm outside and I've got my camera and I've got my yellow shirt and we're going places, we try to do 2. Because if we can do 2, then that's, I don't have to go 2 places. I go 2 places, but I sort of build them together, right? So 2 videos in Venice or 2 videos in Santa Monica, 2 video, right? I did like Little Tokyo in the Arts District, right? I filmed those on the same day so that the videos are just connected together. And sometimes I try to do more than 2 shoots in a day. That way I don't fall behind when life's hiccups happen. There's always hiccups in life. And so I like to have some videos in the can so that if something happens and I can't get to editing it or shooting it, I've still got something to release to y'all every Thursday at 5 p.m. If you haven't figured it out, Thursdays at 5 p.m. is when I release the recorded video. All right. And so you'll also notice I've been doing a lot of walking tours lately. 2 reasons. One is there's just a lot of cool walks here in Southern California. These places are close by, but also the walking tours don't take me as long to edit, selfishly. And so I can produce them easier, and I can kind of edit those when the traveling princess is here because they're drag and drop audio process. I've like built a whole template for getting those in. It's just cutting a few things. It's not quite as detailed as like, where was that clip and where's that B-roll and all these things in some of my heavier edited videos. Now, the walking tours do take more research and also a bit more memorization about what I'm going to say, but less editing, and so overall less time to make. So that's talking about time management. I'm going to talk about systemization and ready to go gear. But before that, I want to hit some comments in the chat. Points Traveler says, Chris, is your boss supportive of your YouTube passion in terms of giving you time off to travel or film new content, or do they even know you have a channel? I think most people that I work with know I have a YouTube channel. My boss actually watches my YouTube channel and he loves it. And you know, I take time off to travel and we film things, and you know, I try not to make it like at the worst times of the world, and so we sort of make that all work out. And so I would say yes. I mean, if I said, you know, hey boss, I'm not going to that super important meeting tomorrow because I got to go to the Santa Monica Pier, that probably wouldn't go so well. But it's like, hey, it's, you know, 3 months from now, we're going to Vancouver. Actually, it's not 3 months from now, but we're going to Vancouver. It's vacation. Everybody's got to take vacation. You know, we earn a certain amount of vacation time. We get to take off a certain amount of vacation time. And he's certainly supportive that I take all the time that I earn, as long as it's reasonable time. So I feel like that's a good job. Gilberto says, I started watching your video only to learn English, but I got the travel bug. Right on, Gilberto. That's great to be. Kenneth says, I'm sure you've already talked about it. Suggestions for a first-timer for where to stay. Where, Kenneth? Where? And Brandon says, the walking tours are enjoyable, Chris. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. Kay says, you have a great beach walking tours. Yeah, and I try to do what I consider a little something different than most people do on those, which is there's other people that do walking tours, but they kind of walk around the camera and they don't say anything. And so I'm like, well, if I can kind of add that like tour guide element to you to be like, hey, it's kind of like you're walking around the Santa Monica Pier with Chris. You know, that's sort of cool. Something different than just viewing it. The Uniplex says you must spend hours answering comments. I would say every week I spend hours answering comments. I answer comments probably within the margins. So I answer comments on my YouTube app. So there's the YouTube Studio app where like you can bring up like all the comments on videos and respond to them. And so when I'm, you know, waiting for hard focus there. When I'm waiting for lunch, or I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, things like that, then I'm just kind of coming up to like, oh, there are a couple comments that I can just kind of knock out and respond. I try to respond to every comment, if not with a response, with a heart, because I know that if I took my time and commented on a video, I'd like it to be acknowledged that at least the video creator read it. And Kathy reminds people to hit that thumbs up, everyone. I would very much appreciate it if you give this video a like. There's 74 people on, 64 likes, so you might have already hit the like. But if you haven't, definitely hit that thumbs up button, because every hit of that thumbs up button is one piece of premium bamboo to the Yellow Productions crew, and they are hungry, let me tell you. All right. And the Points Traveler says, hey, I just got back from dinner and had your live stream running while we're out. Thanks, Points Traveler. I appreciate it. Kenneth, if you're looking for luxury hotels, I really like the Venetian and I like the Wynn. Check out my video on the best luxury hotels in Vegas, or check out my video on the best good value hotels in Vegas. I think that's what it's called. Okay. So now the next thing to help with my productivity is systemization. I talked about this a little bit in time management, but I want to talk through this a little bit more. And I've already made a whole video about my editing workflow, how I edit things, and so I'm not going to take a whole hour to go into this. But lots of things, now that I've made over 1,000 videos, are kind of like templates and cookie cutters. So in my editor, I've already got the Topher that comes in and tells you to like and thumbs up. I've already got the yellow text defined if I put it in the corner with the numbers. In my thumbnails, I've got the yellow text picked out with the right levels of outlines. I've got the software to just brighten the face up with a little bit of AI, just to try to make things as easy, as quick as possible. When I do the walking tours, I use Adobe Premiere to edit those, and I've got all of my settings to treat the audio, because that's one of the most significant parts of those, to be able to hear me outside. And so I have a whole audio treatment pipeline, but I kind of like dialed in all the settings, same microphone, same camera, and so I can just sort of apply that, and it goes, a few hours trying to figure it out the first time, but then each time I can just sort of drop some of those things in. So I think systems are really key. Even like when I send out live stream notifications on my community page, and my update website. By the way, if you haven't joined my email list where I send out update notifications to live stream, head over to update.yellow-productions.com. You can get on a list. I send out an email every time I send out a live stream. They're pretty templated if you've noticed. It says like, hey, fellow explorers, please join me on this day for this live stream about this topic. And then I cut and paste the video description into there, and then the link, good to go, watch it here, here we go. So that way I can send out those emails, those notifications. It just takes me like 3 minutes to put all that stuff down. Now, that way when I'm like writing or doing the emails or making videos or all this, I'm not thinking about how to do it. I'm just thinking about what to do. So I'm not thinking about how to edit. I'm not thinking about what format to write it in. I'm just thinking about what to write, and kind of in a little like, just kind of like narrowed the whole space of possibilities to do so that I can just get it done. All right, so that's systemization. If you, like in the productivity world, if you've heard of things like getting things done or this sort of stuff, that's sort of in the same vein as well. Just the notion of being able to like pick up a task and start work on it, to know like, this is my next action on this thing, and have all the tools that you need to do this action. So related to that, I wanted to hit ready to go gear. And this has two parts to it. The first part of ready to go gear is ready to go filming gear. So all this stuff that I have here, and that's a whole nother video about behind the scenes of my live stream, but it's all ready to go. It's pushed back in the corner of our studio here. And then when I want to film, I roll the desk out that has my laptop on it, that has two monitors on it that are on arms that swing in, that has my Sony a7S III on a mount, that has the microphone right up here and has a light right up here. And all of that just stays set up exactly like that. I don't unplug it, I don't move it, so that way when I'm ready to do a live stream, I can just open it, turn it on, open my live streaming software, ready to go. I can start live streaming in like 5 minutes from the time that I say it's ready to go. If I had to set all this stuff up every time, because I've taken it outside before, done in the backyard, I don't do it all that much because it takes me an hour to like move it all out there and then an hour to move it back. And that's 2 hours spent that I didn't make any content. So I think having the gear ready to go is important. I mentioned this camera never leaves this stand. I've got a whole separate set of cameras that I use to travel, another set of cameras I use to do the walking tours, and each one of those kind of has a system of itself. So when I do the walking tours, I use my Samsung Galaxy S21. I use the same headset microphone I do for the live streams. I've got a separate audio recorder and a DJI Osmo mobile gimbal. That's just that gear that I take when I do the walking tours. When we go do our big travel videos, then I take a Sony camcorder. I might take 2 of them if we're on a big one, just in case one breaks. But that's a whole separate set of equipment, but it's easy equipment. This is why I don't take drones and I don't take these other things, because they're hard to use. And in relation to gimbals, and this is like ready to go gear, I did get a gimbal for my Sony ZV-1, which is like it's a better sensor than on the cell phone, but it's for me, it's so hard to balance the camera on the gimbal. I spend like 15 minutes balancing the camera and not like recording the video. Whereas with the DJI Osmo Mobile 4, which is the cell phone gimbal, I just snap it right onto it. There's got some clips to align it. I do the alignment software, good to go. It takes me 1 minute to align it, and I'm not sitting there struggling with it. Less time to actually start making the content, which means I make more content. So that's probably the most important thing from a gear perspective. But now from a travel gear perspective, I will say systemization is not just for editing. Systemization can totally be applied to your travel gear, which would be like the stuff that you pack. I pack the same things for every trip. Some people recommend like having a checklist, like pack all these things. But when I say I pack all the same things for travel, I don't mean that I always pack a toothbrush. I mean, I pack this toothbrush for travel. This is my travel toothbrush. This is my travel razor. This is my travel deodorant. These are my travel shirts. These are my travel pants. These are my travel socks, right? Like I have this whole set of travel attire that I just go and like take this and put it in the suitcase. And because of that, it's very easy. Like my toiletry kit, there's nothing leaves it, nothing comes in. If I run out of something, I just buy it and it goes straight into the toiletry kit because it's the whole set of travel. So that way, if OC Girl and I say, hey, this weekend we'd like to go someplace, I know in about 15 minutes I can pack to go someplace this weekend. But it makes it that I've always got the stuff when we go. And there's a lot of people that when they travel, it's like a packing extravaganza, hours, days packing, always missing things. And if you systemize that stuff, because you just say it's always the same things, it's always these things, then you never have that issue. If you don't have enough stuff, or you don't do it enough to have 2 of everything, then make that checklist and say, hey, I just want to check these off. And having traveled enough, I know this is the amount of stuff that's going to fit in this suitcase. I lay it all out on my bed first, and then I put it all in the suitcase, because that way I just want to I want to look at it all and make sure I have it all, and then I put it in the suitcase, as opposed to other people kind of pack as they go. Let me put this in the suitcase. Let me put this in the suitcase. And it's like, oh, what about that thing? Did I pack that thing? And then you got to undig out the suitcase. No. The suitcase only gets packed once. And I will tell you, I am when it comes to packing, I'm kind of a precrastinator. So when we travel, let's say, what's today? Today's Tuesday. Let's say we were going on a trip on Friday. I would pack today. I would be packed today. My suitcase would be packed, zippered shut, ready to go, because that way I just if there is something I have to buy or this and that, I know I want to give myself some time, and if it's packed and zippered up and ready to go, I'm just, no stress, because I know it's ready. I hate doing things last minute. And then on the booking side of things, booking flights, booking hotels, booking rental cars, I kind of got that systemized too, which is, look at TripAdvisor, book these places. If there's a Marriott available, I like the Marriott. If there's Hertz rental cars, I like Hertz rental cars. If there's a United flight, I like the United flights. If those stars align on the place I want to go, book it. I can, book a trip in 15 minutes if all the things align of the place that I want to go to. And research is important, but there's also a land of diminishing returns to be well, is this the perfect place or this not? I don't know, this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and go for it.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
So fellow explorers, that is how I stay motivated. That is how I deal with meeting people out in the wild, their impressions, and that is how I stay productive with a full-time job and a young family. If you had a question that I didn't answer, go ahead and ask it in the chat, and in a few we'll be doing a giveaway for Yellow Productions Crew shirt like we do on every live stream. Kathy says, I book accommodations and flights very early. I like to too, because I just like to have them locked in. We are considering going to Death Valley National Park in December, and we're maybe we're going to go. Let's just go ahead and book the hotel, because we can always cancel it later. So better to book it than that. Than not, right? Robert Paul says, Chris, you have thoughts on the Red Sox yellow uniforms? I had not seen them, so I'll have to take a look. Kathy says it takes me ages to pack for a holiday. Well, Kathy, get that checklist or get those things, and we'll systematize it for you. No big deal. The YouTube experiment says travel packing in 5 minutes for sure. I'll use all the packing cubes. It's pretty easy when you just pack yellow shirts and you pack all the same socks, and I talked about it in my what not to buy live stream of the things that I do buy. But just having a bunch of simple stuff and the same things, they just all go in there. Point says, are your profits from YouTube enough to pay for your camera and editing equipment? Luckily, yes. So when I talk about I don't make a lot of money on YouTube, this is definitely not a replacement for my full-time salary anywhere near it. But I do make enough revenue to pay for the cameras and the lights and the editing software, which in my mind helps me justify Chris, why did you buy the multiple thousands of dollar camera, right? I'm well, because it makes better video for all of you. And then I can justify it to be well, I did make that money back, and so I reinvest in the channel. You take your time to watch the videos. You give your time to the ads, which then I can give back to you by kind of upgrading just how we all do it. So that's sort of my theory on it. And that's why I've been able to upgrade more of these things more recently than when I first started the channel, because with more views, there does come more ad revenue. But I don't think I'm ever going to get rich doing YouTube, so I like to put what I earn back into the channel. Chris joined in from Australia. It's all good, mate. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. And the YouTube Experiment says, glad I found this channel. Tons of useful tips. Thanks. Stanford Bridge says, I don't pack in advance, but I pile in advance. There'll be a designated area where I lay out whatever I need to take, sometimes as far as a month in advance. Stanford Bridge, I like that. You are a procrastinator also. Marielle says, if you keep a bag packed for all trips, how do you avoid the smell of wrinkles? Pack clothes when they live in a suitcase. I don't keep them packed. I always unpack, but I have a separate part of my closet that has all of my travel stuff and travel gear that stays out and hung or things like that. And I do roll it or fold it and things like that when I put it in there. My toiletry kit I take out and just kind of let air out. Then it goes back in the suitcase. Rolo says, what credit card do you use for flights? Let's see, what credit card is in my wallet today? Shall we see what credit card's in my wallet today? I need to take this out in a way that maybe you don't see the numbers, because I don't want you to have the numbers. I generally use the Chase Sapphire Reserve for most things travel, so I use that for flights as well, because I like the whole trip interruption cancellation coverage on the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Yeah, I'm also a holder of the Amex Platinum card. We've used some of them, their fine hotels and resorts credits to book hotels for our upcoming trip to Vancouver, which does give some good perks for places like Fairmont hotels and places that maybe don't have traditional elite or loyalty programs. Kathy says, Australia's soon getting out of lockdown. Maybe I'll book accommodation today. Do it. Where are you going, Kathy? And Mike says, that's why booking direct is convenient, as you can cancel within 24 to 48 hours. Absolutely, I always book direct, because your point, Mike, it gives the most flexible cancellation policies. Chicken Marsala says, has OC Girl been pretty supportive of my YouTube dedication? I think so. She's the one that always runs the camera. For the Office Survival Guide, she's provided a lot of ideas for that. She's the one that was like, Chris, you should start the second channel. You spend all this talking to her coming home from work about like this or presentation, this and that. She's like, you should put that up on YouTube. Other people could benefit from that. So yes, OC Girl's been quite supportive until her arm gets tired from holding the camera for too long. I applause from Chris. Thank you for the applause, Chris. Chris, you're looking very dapper in that suit there on your profile. Mike says, I can pack light within an hour of need. I'm always ready to go someplace. That's the way to do it, Mike. Veronica says, just waking up sick in bed. I booked a trip to Austin for January. Have you noticed more cancellation insurance offered lately? I don't travel too often and notice this because I'm in COVID. For sure, there's more easily cancellation policies, flexible policies, those sorts of things. Who do we have here? Who do we have here? Look at that. It is the traveling princess. And do you know what that means?
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
She's like, where did my video go when that came up? It is time for the giveaway. And if you are going to win this Yellow Productions Crew shirt, then you need to tell me what was the make and model of my first yellow car. I showed it in the picture at In-N-Out Burger, and if you can tell me what the make and model of that car was, you'll win a Yellow Productions Crew shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. By the way, if you have not been able to win one, but you want to buy one, I've got an Etsy shop. You can buy the Yellow Productions Crew shirts. You can buy the embroidered shirts like I've got here. You can get an Office Survival Guide mug. Those are all up for the fancy. A mug? That one's pretty good, right? That one's pretty good.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
We have a winner, and Traveling Princess, who is it? It's Gilberto for the win. Gilberto for the win. Congratulations, Gilberto. What number is this Gilberto? He is like really close to Ricky's win. But you know, when Gilberto wins, I do like to give out a second one, because sometimes people say Gilberto takes away all of our chances. So we get 2 wins today. And the Traveling Princess is like, why is my face in this yellow bar? So the second shirt goes to Brandon Torres. Brandon Torres, congratulations. So Gilberto and Brandon, you were number 2. And there's a lot of people who also said Honda Accords, but you two were the first. So Gilberto, you know how to get a hold of me. Brandon, I think you do too. Send me an email. Let me know where you want me to send it and what size, and I will get that right to to you. Well, as usual, we won't say goodbye because we're going to see you all in the next video, a recorded video this Thursday at 5 p.m. and a live stream as usual next week. What day is it going to be? I am not sure yet, but sign up, the Yellow Productions update right over there, and you'll get an email, date and time. As soon as I know, you will know. Bye-bye. That's right. Bye-bye. See you next time.